Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Sukumar. Uh, I'm following two excellent presentations that I listened to from Professor Haas, and I think somewhere Illinois blood in Chetan Dubey. Is that true? Yes, so I am a fellow Illinois, and believe me, I was sitting there and trying to modify my presentation on the go. Technology didn't help. Wi-Fi failed, Professor. Uh, I couldn't upload the latest presentation because, and I will talk about it. I, I, I wanted to mention two things that Chetan was saying and Professor was saying. Number one, this whole world of digital bots. And I also run a bot company, so it's a very interesting thing, and I would like to mention that and add to what Chetan added. And of course, on the whole issue of digital divide and what we are doing to counter that. So let me start, and I've been given something to play with. I'm going to keep my theme very quickly. It's a TED-style talk, I've been told. I'm also an adjunct professor, so you've got a third professor back-to-back, so I'm sorry, you'll have to live through us, professors and academics this morning. But I'm talking about few fundamental things that I was told to talk. You know, in India, I've titled my talk on the digital roadmap of India, but more on the associated with the growth story of India, because today what is happening is India is growing and, leapfrogging so many things that we talk about. And, but the story of India lies in 5 big buckets, and I want to talk about those 5 big buckets. The first bucket I want to talk about is infrastructure. And, but before I do that, what is the goal, the theme of India today? If you want to look at this slide and this map, the theme of India is summarized in that, a lot of complicated pillars. I hope to make it simpler for you. One is make our social, physical, hard infrastructure better for every citizen of India. And I use the word social, physical, hard infrastructure. And along with that, and that does, in that bucket, everything falls under. You have, the energy infrastructure being built, the E. And within energy, a lot of things are being done. You have the city infrastructure, which basically means the quality of life improvement that we are trying to build in our cities. You have the T, the ECT. The T is all the transport, travel, tourism infrastructure. Within tourism, if you see, there is Swachh Bharat, which is the Clean India program that is going on a very, very massive scale. And what, over the last 2 years, Professor, we have done is added D to that. D is a digital infrastructure. And a new thinking has been added that digital infrastructure is probably as important, as vital to this country leapfrogging as anything else. Today, as Chetan said before me, everything is digital. We are leapfrogged many generations of many things because of our digital capability. Whether we like the hype curve of Y2K or not, our whole IT industry was born because of that hype curve, right? So there is, the digital revolution in India is at a stage that it is actually teaching the world where to go next. A lot of big bang reforms that have been accomplished. A few things I'll talk about. Fiscal architecture. No talk today in India is complete without talking about the new fiscal architecture and how digital helped achieve that fiscal architecture. But within the digital infrastructure that is being built, and I'll limit myself to that today, is something which is very, very important, which is this. Today, India has almost 99% coverage of its adult population on a digital identity platform. The world's biggest digital identity platform. And all of us have probably know about it, heard about it, and I'm sure the people who are resident of India are a member of the Aadhaar program. What is so fundamental about it? The digital identity program has been in place for 5 years, 6 years now. from 2014, where there was 600 million people on it. Today it's about 1.1 billion. 500 more million people have been added on it. But what really transformed this digital identity into a digital infrastructure is three things. This became the Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile trinity. How many of you know about the Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile trinity? I have heard the word JAM. The JAM, my friends, is a fundamental reform. Thank you. This reform as an infrastructure is what is rebooting our government. What is Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile reform? The Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile, J stands for Jan Dhan, which are the bank accounts. A is your Aadhaar identity, M is your mobile number. Today, by using this trinity, we can, and that's where the legality of the Aadhaar is so far, is we can provide subsidies, benefits, social benefits to just about any scheme in India. To any benefits, any social sector benefits, any consumption that is happening. And just to give you a reference point, between the central and the state governments in India, any guesses how many schemes do we have in India? How many of these benefit schemes? Last count, 1100. And that is where fundamental rebooting of the government is happening. Two schemes where this program has been rolled out at a central level. Government has saved over $7.5 billion over the last 2 years. 50,000 crores. The thinking of the government is now fixing the plumbing. That's what is the second pillar of thinking. Use the infrastructure, including the digital infrastructure, reboot the government. We are on a massive exercise to reboot government. How can we make the dollar, the rupee, the crores of rupees go a long way? And digital is the only way that is helping us. This digital infrastructure is helping us reach to that last mile more effectively and actually reach to the last mile. Both identify people correctly, segmentize them correctly, and service them correctly. Make sure that that person who's supposed to receive that benefit is receiving that benefit at the click of a fingerprint or an iris scan and saying, hey, this is me, I availed this benefit. Within a short span of time, can I get my money into my bank account? The Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile trinity is at work. So if I walk into a ration card shop, a PDS shop, I avail of a certain benefit that I'm entitled to, I don't have to wait for months to justify that I got it. I don't have to go to multiple shops to see whether I'm entitled to that benefit or not. I go to one shop on a mobile phone, I make my presence felt, say I consumed this benefit, I have my bank account associated with my Aadhaar bank. Within the next batch processing, money gets transferred to my bank account. No middlemen, no duplicacy, and yes, it becomes a right. It really becomes an entitlement. 1,270 obsolete laws. 1,270 obsolete laws at last count have been thrown out the window. That's really rebooting the government. And I don't say reimagining the government. I'm saying rebooting. This is the new normal. We are starting afresh in many things. The fiscal delivery of entitlements and benefits is one big thing. We spend an enormous amount of money, $200 billion plus central state combined, out to deliver benefits in this country. If that can be digitally transformed, we are looking at our social infrastructure becoming more effective, more available to all people of India. That's the fundamental philosophy of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, but how it is being enabled is all digitally. Professor, 3 years ago, our total internet connectivity in India was about 100 million people, 120 million people. Today, in less than, last 3 years, I've seen it grow from 120 million to 350 million people. Mostly enabled by the great smartphone revolution. India is adding 100 million smartphone users, net new smartphone users every year. 100 million, ladies and gentlemen. That's the second highest population of smartphones in the world. And you now combine that with the low-cost internet that is being provided by all these new disruptors in telecom, that's a revolution. Does everybody in this room know how the Reliance Jio added 100 million users in 170 days? How many of you use Reliance or got enrolled in Reliance? Very few. But you know, there's an audience who had never experienced internet before. I was the biggest Reliance customer. I have to tell you this story because this is very important. Reliance added 100 million users in 170 days. Paperless completely. Do you know that? Not a single piece of paper was to be provided. What they were using? Not a card. Aadhaar is not a card, by the way. We have a misnomer, Aadhaar is a card. Aadhaar is a number. Combined with your, Aadhaar has three things. I'm looking like Aadhaar salesman right now. Aadhaar has three things, and that's the fundamental of any identity, is who you are, what you have, and what you know. And Aadhaar does all of that with a number, your name, and your identity that you carry with yourself. Nobody else has that. And that's why it meets the basic criteria of identity, a digital identity. So you go to a shop, give your number, say this is me, Arvind Gupta, and say to verify this is me, to authenticate myself, I give either my biometric or my iris scan, and done. I'm KYC'd. I have meet the authentication criteria. I can be a customer. All banks, you're talking about MetLife doing customer service. That's the second step. Third step in a life cycle of a consumer. Acquire, manage, retain, monetize. That's generally a life cycle of a consumer for any business. The acquisition is so difficult and so costly that we miss out a category of consumers that could never service before. With this thing, with this paperless, presence-less acquisition of consumers, which cost 1 to 2 rupees, you can acquire a new set of consumers that India has never imagined before. Why India? The world has never imagined before. And that is where the Jio people leverage that. 100 million people, completely paperless, completely presence-less. Assisted mode, but presence-less. And second very interesting data point for Jio. Average download, highest in the world. You know what was the average download per month per consumer? Any guesses? Sukumar, you published a report on that. 65 GB. 65 GB. That is the consumption, digital consumption that India thrives to do. That is the amount of consumption India thrives to do. And we've been failing, our networks have been failing there. So that's where the digital divide, India is ready to consume. The message is India is ready to consume. Give them the connectivity. Bridge that digital divide. And if you give them the connectivity at the right price with the right instruments, we are ready to consume. And that's where the fundamental DNA of our country has been altered forever. Right? I'm going to skip a few. So, first bucket, the infrastructure is being built. Two, how we are using the digital infrastructure to reboot government. Tax laws are being modified, the plumbing is being fixed, making sure that the money that we have is being spent very well. Third, no talk is complete, as I said, without talking about tax, money, demonetization. That's really where a lot of Silicon Valley is meeting North Block. For those of us who have worked in Silicon Valley, I can tell you, big data, artificial intelligence is a very loose word, but the big data analytics that you always thought about is all at play. We are fundamentally changing the way we all, first of all, digitize our transactions, make them paperless, but also the tax networks that are so much desired in India to become bigger, and also seamless and painless. This is the biggest movement that I think India has done over the last few years. We can get into the politics of demonetization. I'm not going to do that. But a few things that I want to leave you as thought. Media reports suggested about 1.8 million people got served a request for information that you deposited 4.5 plus crore rupees. 4.5 lakh crore rupees. Sorry, I missed the lakh, very important. 4.5 lakh, that's close to $70 billion. Out of the $220 billion that was removed from the system, $70 billion, can you believe it, was deposited by 1.8 million people? How did this 1.8 million people get recognized? How did they get identified? Did some babu sit and identify list, oh, I like this name, I don't like this name? No. It's all technology at work. And this technology today, I think the government tech, we talk a lot about fintech, we miss out GovTech. The amount of technology that is being used for taxation, for finance, is unprecedented in the world in India. And that is the story. The story of digital finance. We are just at the beginning of the fintech revolution in India. You know, we spend so much of time on the payments, discussion payments only, but nobody talks about customer acquisition, savings, credit. The amount of data we are producing in this country today will make ourselves so data rich that we can give credit at a much better accuracy. Gone will be the days, and you know, a policy-driven bot to me will actually go and say, cut, we meet your 20 parameters, you give a few other parameters, this is your entitlement, this is the kind of credit you can get. And that is the world we are moving to, because we are going to digitize transactions next with the GST. So the world of payments and the world of finance, digital finance, is just beginning in India. The acquisition cycle, that's just started. The management, where there is payments is a sub part of it, is of course is a story that everybody is talking about. The retention, how do you entertain? That's where AI and CRM-based chatbots for help and customer service will come into play. And then monetize. How do you monetize this new consumer, which is actually at a lowest cost that you have, probably zero balance accounts? How do you monetize those consumers? And that's where we are facing a very big issue. People are starting charging 2%, 4%. Those days will be gone. You'll have to develop new monetization models of your consumers. These days of transaction percentages are all gone. Fintech banks are thinking very fresh. How do they monetize their consumers? It's not going to be through fees. It's going to be through data. And data is the new oil. The one big thing I want to leave you with is what is called the India stack. I know you've mentioned it briefly, but this is something I know I spread my own, where I am also a co-founder, is a partner organization here. I think where India is excelling is something very different. We are aspiring to solve challenges not only of India, but of the world. The world today, Silicon Valley has innovated for the top 1 billion. We've done a very good job of innovating for the top 1 billion. Where India aspires to do is low-cost, scalable innovation for the next 6 billion. And challenges are so many. We are just at the start of solving problems in health. We've not even touched there. We have not even touched the surface in solving problems of education, urban transport, cities. So what is the aspiration? What is this big aspiration of India? And I'll give this slide for some food for thought. Last year, a year before last now, these numbers are from 2015, Silicon Valley had about $68 billion worth of venture investment. 4,000 startups, plus or minus. Israel had $19 billion, 6,000 startups. India had $10 billion worth of venture investment, but 18,000 startups. These are all formal, informal startups. 18,000 startups. Do the maths. We are doing a startup at 30x less cost. And this is just not human arbitrage. This is fundamentally based because what we are trying to do is innovation as a public good. This India stack fits in there. When today I want to start up a new bank, a new fintech service, to go paperless, I don't have to reinvent the wheel of writing everything on my own. India stack is available. India stack is built on your Aadhaar, which is your identity layer, your paperless, which is your digital locker, your payments, which is your UPI, transactions, which are being plugged in as GST, and your consent layer. Consent layer is in the control of the user. This is what India Stack is all about. You combine all of that, this is public good. This is available for any entrepreneur, innovator to be used in his or her venture, in new innovation. Once that is there, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's why we believe the cost of innovation, the cost of technology in India can really be brought down, and is being brought down. And I'll give you two examples. Today, in payments, world over, the cost of payments is about 1% to 2%, somewhere in that range. Credit card, debit card. In India, we're talking about 50 paisa, 1 cent, that's the range we are talking about. MDRs as low as 25 basis points. That's only seeking the rent for the infrastructure, nothing else. This is open IP, open data. Not open data really, but open stack, innovation available to anybody. The cost of innovation. So if I have to build a health stack now, I don't have to start from scratch. I have my identity layer, I have a paperless layer. Can I use those things to build a new disruption around health in India? And that's called the health stack, for example. So all those things can be built around the India stack. That's the basis of bringing the cost of innovation down and at a scale that has never been done before. Because that's what we're trying to do. I want to leave you with this last slide, and I did talk about it. What is happening in the digital economy in India is really that data has become the new oil. Government is becoming data-driven. Organizations are becoming data-driven. The examples of Reliance Jio that I gave you, Reliance is India's biggest oil company, is now becoming a data company. So the lines on what data can be used for what are really blurring, and data is really becoming the new currency, the new oil. And we as a country, from a very, very data-poor country, we are becoming a very, very data-rich company in a leapfrog that nobody ever imagined. And it is being helped by a reverse Moore's law, the cost of cloud, the cost of storage, all coming down. Moore's law is also getting broken, completely broken. Moore's law used to say 18 months, computing power doubles. Today, I think it's no longer true. The timelines are still shrinking. We have to revisit Moore's law. Storage, terabytes of storage available at pennies to $1. Same thing with compute power, all on the cloud, everything available there. So with all of this out there, what is happening is that the amount of data storage you don't have to think about. We are producing data all around us, and I had a slide on that, which, as I said, I couldn't fit in time. Today, with the smartphone revolution, with the bots around us, all of you use bots here and there. Do you all realize that? Siri, when you interact, is a bot. Google Maps, when you're talking, is a bot in a way. WhatsApp is shortly launching a bot. Facebook Messenger already has bots. And what is the overall user base of these bots across the world? It's the biggest UI today. I call the Messenger is the new UI. Today's Messenger, your WhatsApp, how many of you wake up in the morning and the first thing you see are your WhatsApp messages? And you can be very frank right now. You can vote also in this machine. I do it all the time. I don't open the browser first thing in the morning. I don't start my day with Internet Explorer or Chrome. I start my day with checking my WhatsApp because those notifications are sitting in my face. So your bots, your messengers are becoming your new UI, your user interface, your gateway to the world. And the very interesting number with that, 3.5 billion daily active users. You combine WeChat, WhatsApp, messengers, iMessage, all of this together, 3.5 billion daily active users. There is no bigger ecosystem than that today. There are people who think WhatsApp is the internet, by the way, in India. So that's a system out there, and the amount of data it is producing is unprecedented. It's unprecedented. You talk to the folks at WhatsApp, they will tell you they don't want to store data. Because if they start storing it, their systems will crash. On an average, WhatsApp system produces 50 billion to 60 billion messages a day. They're just a pipe. They transfer from X to Y and act as an intermediary in between. If they start doing that, the systems would fail. So that's how data-driven we are becoming. And whether we like it or not, we are leaving data imprints as we are speaking right now. We are getting vectorized, as Chetan says. There's so much of data around us. I'm sure a lot of you are WhatsApping, tweeting, putting it on Facebook. You're all generating a data point. And this data point of where you are, proximity data, what you are hearing, what you're saying, what you're commenting on, is all valuable to somebody or the other. Or to yourself. Combine big data with small data becomes very, very valuable. And that is the new data-driven economy that we are moving towards. India is leading that revolution with this new digital democracy. And I just want to leave you with this thought. The new money in India is all digital. The new paper in India is all paperless. It's all KYC. The new payment systems we are building in India, the acceptance criteria are all your mobile phones. You had those big clunky machines. Why can't you reimagine that mobile phone into a payment device and into a complete credit card acceptor? So all cool things that you imagine or you always wanted to reimagine are happening right here. We have the ecosystem ready for it. The consumer is ready for it. The innovators are ready for it. We have the India stack. We have a government which is acting like a startup itself. It's consuming a lot of startup. And I think the world is looking up to India to produce solutions, to give it solutions which are scalable and very, very low cost. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.